Welcome back. This is Paradigm Shift. I'm your host, Jelena. It's taken me a couple of minutes, I would say at least 15, just to get this all under control again. Apparently, I completely forgot everything about how to record on here, so that's been fun. So, on that note, I want to talk about change. As you guys know, I didn't put out an episode last week, and I am sorry for that, but also thank you for standing by me anyway and supporting me and stuff. But last week was a bit busy. I went on a trip. It was really safe. I just went out of town pretty much to go camp out in the woods with my sister, my boyfriend, and her boyfriend as well. And for those of you that kind of know my background, I have parents that are very cautious people. So it's kind of like we were never really allowed to go out as much or to do, have like midnight runs with friends and stuff. More so now. I just realized, I don't know if you can hear my dog snoring in the background, but she's in the background snoring. So if you hear her, just know that is my dog. So, right, as I was saying, the trip, and so for me and my sister, it was a big deal because it was going to be without parents. It was going to be us driving out of town. It was going to be, me and her pretty much in charge the entire time, which we've never really been able to do. I'm glad my parents were willing to let us grow, I guess, if that makes sense. But that's what it feels like, and I'm happy that we have that kind of relationship. But the change. So on this trip, as I said, this is a turning point for me and my sister. First time we're in charge, first time it feels like we're growing up and we're by ourselves, and this is truly what it means to be an adult, to live, of course, in the woods with no other adult supervision. And I learned a couple of things about myself, good and bad. Some stuff that I'm proud of, some stuff that I want to do, and some stuff that I actually realized I want to work on. So right now I'm drinking cinnamon apple tea. I think it's by Celestial. Me and my father used to drink it when I was little. I remember at least one time where I walked, it was really late, maybe midnight, and he's always been an insomniac, so he's always had a really hard time sleeping. And I remember I walked into our apartment kitchen one time, and, the stove light was on. And I was like, oh, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm making tea. Do you want some? And I was like, yeah, I've never had tea. And he's like, okay. So he put me on the countertop while he boiled water, and we both had cinnamon apple tea. And since then, it was always like, tea was our way of like having those little moments together. As like a baby. I must have been like 6 or 4 maybe. I was really small. And so growing up, it's always been like, oh, well, let's go have tea. Let's have tea in the morning. Do you want to have tea right now? While we're talking, do you want to have some tea or whatever? And it was usually always that one. And then it kind of just stopped because for a time we had a lot of friction. I was not doing very well in school. I was very detached because I was trying to get involved with so many things. And as a parent, it is hard to allow that to happen when all you have ever wanted was to have a family. And so both of us were kind of pulling and pushing in a way that there is almost a gap where my father was obviously a part of the picture, and I love him and he's always loved me. But it feels almost as though I don't remember what our relationship was for most of my high school years. If anything, it was tumultuous. And I always felt somehow selfish for letting myself indulge in the things that I wanted to do. Which now I realize I shouldn't have, and I should have allowed myself to be happy, but that's a different story. But it kind of evolved to where now we didn't have tea anymore. Now it's just coffee. All four of us, my mom, my father, me, and Kasha, my sister, we all have coffee in the morning. You know, usually it's Sunday mornings and my dad doesn't have to work. We have coffee and we eat like egg and cheese or chorizo tacos or just different things like that. And it's always with coffee. You know, cold mornings we go outside and sit and we kind of just, I don't know, look in our backyard and kind of just stare at the trees and the sky. And there was a time where I wasn't in high school. I had graduated and I was gonna go into the Air Force, but I didn't. And so it was this weird in between time where I was going to register for college, but I still hadn't done it yet. And so me and him were in a really rough space. But I remember that a lot of the time we always had coffee. Bear with me, there's a point. And so those moments have always been anchored by tea and by coffee, you know, by cool mornings and late nights. And so for me, nostalgia has always been something that I record, I guess. And so for me, going on this trip was just like a huge picture book of firsts, if that makes sense. In fact, part of what me and my sister packed was, well, tea, because that's what my boyfriend wanted, and it just so happens that he also likes cinnamon apple tea, that specific one. And we also brought coffee for me and my sister. Both of our boyfriends never really cared for or had tried coffee before, so we thought we could share that with them. So, you know, it was funny because when me and my sister were packing up in the morning, you know, finishing our everything, going through our checklist and stuff, you know, my father was like, well, I'm gonna go get lunch for your mom, and, you know, I think by the time I come back, you guys will already be gone, because we had to go pick her boyfriend up from the bus station and stuff, so we had to leave. And we hugged him, and it was funny because he was the one driving off. And, you know, he was like, you know, have, you know, a cup of coffee for me and Mama over there. And we're like, okay. And as he pulled out of the driveway, me and my sister, like, looked at each other. And I was like, I don't know why, but I feel like I'm going to cry. And she said, you know what, me too. And it was weird because it's almost picturesque, the kind of scene in the movie where you know things will never truly be the same, but nobody talks about it because it's less painful. That's pretty much what it was for me anyway. Anyhow, so we got there. The road trip over there was long and very anxious, because I was the driver. And it was my first time driving out of town with absolutely nobody around me, who were, you know, trusted adults. But I've figured out that it's okay. I am a trusted adult. That's part of it. But the ride over there was nice. When we got there, it was beautiful. I had a really good time. It was crazy because I've realized that I put a lot of restraints on myself and on others because they were placed upon me by other people. But, you know, over, I think it was 3 days and 2 nights, I kind of realized that that's not what I want. And although it is something that I can't change in a second, I do plan on changing it. So, right, back to my coffee and tea story. It's really cold where we went. I mean, it's really cold because it's December, but more so, it was, I think, in the 30s or 20s. And so it was going to be freezing. And I think we were playing like Mario Kart, or we were watching some movie in our little shelter. And then, you know, my boyfriend, Anthony, I'm not quite sure how to make you guys perceive him. This is so funny. But he was like, you know, I'm gonna make tea. And I was like, oh, okay. He was like, do you want some? And I was like, well, I haven't had tea in like literal months. And to be honest, the only tea I drink by myself is blueberry peach tea, which is great, by the way. But I was like, I haven't had the cinnamon apple one in years. I was like, yeah, sure. And so he made some for me, for her boyfriend, Dylan. And I think she had hot chocolate, maybe? Or maybe we were just all hanging out. And, like, I sipped it, and we were all talking and laughing about, like, injuries we got as, like, kids and funny stories. And there was a moment where, when we were all drinking, it was kind of a sinking feeling and a lifting, as both sinking and lifting, which obviously is perfect for conflict within the self. But this feeling that, no matter what I do, these moments are always going to be there. It's just a matter of if I'm going to pay attention to them or not, and if I'm going to choose to live in them and to remember them or not. And I think it's funny, it's almost like full circle, where it's like, here we are having tea again with new people in our lives that we care about. Something that we knew was always coming, but never really thought would actually come true, And for me, that's, what better story than that? And later, the next morning, I made coffee, and she did too, and Dylan tried hers, and Anthony tried mine, and they liked it, and it was pretty good. And I think the last morning that they were there, we all made coffee, and we all drank coffee. Well, I was anxious to get ready to get out, because I was pretty much just overwhelmed and overreacting. There was a deadline to get out, but nothing would have happened if we didn't make it on time. But that's just my anxiety. But it's just one of those things where it was kind of like, wow, it's crazy how much growth, how much change there is. It's almost like the song Everything Stays. I think about that a lot, where it's like, everything changes, and yet somehow, everything stays exactly the way it was before. And it's the same thing. It's like a different painting, but the same colors, if that makes sense. I don't know. So that was one thing that I really did appreciate. There's something about sleeping next to the person that you really love that it's hard to replicate once you don't have it anymore. Sorry, this is just the part where I get sad because I miss my boyfriend. But those were the nice things about it. We hung Christmas lights outside our shelter. We made a fire and roasted marshmallows. We played Mario Kart inside on a projector. We made tea. We saw raccoons. We shivered under our blankets on 30-degree nights. We hiked. We saw rocks. We slipped on rocks. We watched hawks dive, and we watched people walk their dogs up the trails. We went to a crystal cave and watched it shimmer, and we took pictures. Me and Anthony pretended like we were in a Renaissance painting. And oh my gosh, you can hear it in the background really loud now. And it was a lot of fun. I definitely want to do that again. And I'm glad I took my Polaroid, and I'm glad that he loves taking pictures, and I'm glad because I somehow love keeping memories, but I'm really bad at making time to take pictures. So he took care of that for me too. And like I said, those were all things that I adored. Those are all things that I was looking forward to, and I'm glad that they actually came true. But there were parts that I didn't think were going to truly shine through, and I wish they hadn't. But at least now I know who I don't want to be. For example, throughout almost the entire trip, I was pretty good with my anxiety. for the most part. But I will admit that, and I talked to my sister about this too, because, you know, me and her have enough trust with one another that if she tells me something about me and my character, that it's probably because it's something I gotta fix. And I realize that despite the growth of confidence that I have, there's a certain kind of insecurity I have when it comes to hurting people that I care about. Whether I'm good enough or not doesn't seem to really be the issue anymore. It's just more so that when I what is it? Like, not reach out, but when I snap at, like, my boyfriend or my sister when I'm anxious, that is what sends me into a hateful spiral. Self-hate spiral, that is. And so I realized, and I think it's funny, I love my father to death. Me and him, he's made a point that's like to say that we're soulmates. Obviously not in that way, that's weird, but soulmates in the sense of no matter where we go, no matter how far or how awful the arguments and the disagreements are, for some reason we always seem to touch base, like we're two old men on a porch in front of a lake talking about all the things we should have done differently. That kind of soulmate. And so growing up, I was always really afraid of being loud, of being rude, because my father has really bad social anxiety, and he gets very quiet and very stoic and very angry when you ask a lot of questions, when we're at a place that's new, when you raise your voice, when you bring any commotion to yourself. So with that being said, I was raised that way, and so there's a motorcycle outside. And so when I'm with other people and my father isn't there, my body, I don't know why, but it's almost as if he's not there, somebody has to be that person for safety reasons. I don't agree with it, but it seems that that's what's happened. And so I realized that on this trip, if I am alone with the people I care about and my father happens to not be there, I get really mean. Not all the time, but when I get anxious, I get really mean. I make fun of my father a lot here. We all joke with one another, and so we tease each other and stuff. That when he's angry or right after a self-help book, he walks like he's on a mission, kind of like he's off to battle. And as we were walking to a crystal cave, I was afraid that we weren't going to make it on time. I was afraid that we wouldn't get gas that quickly, we wouldn't get food quickly, we were going to be late. All these things were making me very jittery. And so I kept snapping at my boyfriend, like, well, we better hurry up, or we better do this, or just, acting like I didn't want to be there. And I did. I was just scared of not being able to get home on time, because ultimately it would be my fault. I'm the driver, But instead of saying that, all I did was be passive aggressive, be mean, be, like, hurry up, we gotta go, And what's the fun in that? There isn't. And so I noticed there was a time where, I had done it so much, and this was only like 10 minutes in to the actual hike, because we were just trying to do a quick trail before we left home, that my boyfriend was like, yeah, you know what, it's fine, we don't have to go. And it upset me. And I think it's so funny, because it's like, I'm not upset at him, I'm upset that I managed to ruin something that mattered to somebody I loved, which I think is hilarious as a coping mechanism, because it literally makes no sense, and it's irrational. But anywho, so he said that, and I was like, no, it's fine, we're already here. And I kind of stalked past him and kind of just walked up the trail by myself, like as fast as I could. And I realized that I was walking exactly like my father. I was quiet just like him. I was hushing others just like him when he feels that way. And I thought, man, this is not who I wanted to be. I thought it would be stronger. I thought it would be kinder. I've always strived to be kind, but it seems like because those were the coping mechanisms of how to deal with anxiety that I was taught by example, that's what I used. And so midway through my little 30-second walk of anger, I got really sad that I ruined something. And on my way towards a self-hate spiral, I realized I can't do that again, not here. Doing that wouldn't help make my boyfriend feel better. It wouldn't make me feel better. And so I thought the next thing would be to, and it's funny because I thought, maybe a positive affirmation would work. And it wasn't like, you're beautiful, you're strong, but it's what I needed. And so I was like, you're a good person, you're okay, you're just afraid, it's gonna be fine. Like, you're gonna go to Crystal Cave, you're a good person, you're a good girlfriend, you're just nervous, it's okay. And then by the time my boyfriend got caught up to me, I felt better. I felt less angry and less tense. And so then I just pretended to be happy, pretended like nothing had happened. I wasn't erasing it, it's just I needed to let him know that I was trying to be safe, or to create a safe space. I was trying to create that environment for the both of us to have a good time. Of course, Kasha and Dylan were off, like, talking and being lovey-dovey on their way up. So it was kind of like me and him were leading the way, and it was a rocky trail, to say the least. And so he was like, well, we don't have to go. And I was like, no, it's probably right around here. I thought we saw it on the map that it was close. And he's like, I'll go check. And so he ran ahead, poor thing. And he's like, yeah, it's up here. And I was like, oh, okay. And then from there on, it was like better. It was just a change. I didn't, it was just one of those things where I have to trust that things are going to be okay. And obviously you can say, well, if you trust too much, you would be late. If you trusted too much, then you wouldn't, put gas in on time, and you wouldn't get home on time, and then you would make, Dylan miss his bus, or whatever might be the chain of events. But I think what I do is really irrational. So to be less irrational would be still on the safe side. For example, if I set an alarm of like when we have to go, with some safe time in between, like 5-10 minute difference, that allows us to make room for if there are bumps in the way, then that's fine. And then I don't have to worry about it anymore. I actually talked to my boyfriend about this, but in a different matter earlier, when me and him were just around the campfire by ourselves. Whereas, like, I think I just need to trust you more, that you have stuff in control, that you are your own person, because I was taught that I was controlled, and so that when I would be an adult, I would do the same to others, and that's not how it works. And so that's kind of allowing other people to help you be in control. And so I guess change is what has ultimately surrounded this whole thing. Change in that I experienced life in a different way that I hadn't really believed in before. Changed in a way that there are some things I didn't want to be, but at least I know now that I can fix them, that I can change. It's a multitude of things. And it kind of has translated into other parts of my life where I am changing and I don't know to what. I don't know to who. I don't know where it's going. I don't know if any of this will last. But change is inevitable, and so I might as well go with it. Whether I choose to fix it, whether I choose to capture it in a moment is up to me. But for now, I just have to be comfortable with the idea that change is painful, but it is also good. One way or another, things will be okay. And I think that's just maybe, hopefully, this gives you peace of mind for whatever you're going through or whatever you're not going through. Perhaps this is just nice to listen to. But this has been fun. And I came back, and it feels as if I cannot put myself back in a box. Not to say that this is restrictive, but my family has a certain idea of who I am and what I am capable of based on what I do here at the house, which is stifled by dependency, I know. I'm sure of it. But coming back, it feels almost as if all the things that felt so overwhelming here are now little, minuscule. They are the easiest things to overcome. You know, a couple weeks ago, and it feels almost embarrassing to say, but it's, I don't know. Look, I'm trying my best, okay? My mom would be like, oh, you should watch the dogs. And I'd be like, okay. And then she's like, can you shave them or whatever? And they would be like, I would get it done, but on separate dates because I felt so clouded and overwhelmed. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so much work. And today me and my sister washed all 3 of the dogs, shaved them, cleaned the kitchen. I don't even know what else we did. We did a couple of other things that I know were time consuming, but we got it done and out of the way. And I still was able to do my makeup, do videos, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I did waste time, and I'm not proud of it, but I am getting better. And so there's that too, where it's almost like, it's weird. I truly feel like I was gone for weeks, and it was only 3 days, which I think is hilarious. But I don't know. I mean, I know this will help me in some sort of way, but I won't see the actual results of this all until later. So I hope this has been kind to you in some way, or that at least you find it enjoyable to listen to. I like telling stories, so this has been fun. But don't forget to check out my Instagram, my TikTok. If you're listening on YouTube, put down comments on maybe something you want to hear next episode, or just your thoughts on this whole thing, on changes in your life, or critiques on my character, with taste, please. But well, you guys have a great day. Hope y'all have an amazing rest of your day. Love y'all. Stay safe and stay kind.